I'm Aliyah Funschelle. Welcome to The Matchup. Today's duo is going to be a fun one because we've got two athletes who didn't just compete at the highest level, they've stayed in the game in a whole new way. We've got Grand Slam champion, former world number one in doubles, and now one of the most respected voices in tennis broadcasting, Rennae Stubbs. And joining her today is World Cup champion, Olympic gold medalist, and one of the fiercest competitors to step in the goal, Ashlyn Harris. Two elite athletes, two leaders, two personalities that don't shy away from speaking their minds. Rennae, Ashlyn, welcome to The Matchup. I would love to know, though, how did you two first meet? I heard you were fast friends, so I would love to hear your guys' friendship origin story.
Rennae, birthday girl. Everyone, happy birthday to Rennae.
Happy
First
birthday,
and
Rennae.
foremost.
Aries queen. I'm an Aries too.
Everyone needs to go.
Yeah, happy Aries month and time of the year for everybody. But I'll start this one because it was kind of initiated by me because I am an Aries.
Of course,
this is what we do,
Daddy.
We were at the Ralph Lauren polo match.
No,
in New
it was
Jersey.
not. It was the Vouv.
Oh, excuse me.
Wrong.
It was Vouv Clicquot, but it was a polo match.
Yes, it was.
In Jersey. I mean, just something that springs to your mind, right? Vouv Clicquot and New Jersey. But anyway, Ashlyn and I found our way there. I was invited by a friend. Ash was invited by friends. And so we ended up going there individually. And I saw Ashlyn from afar and I'm like, what's that bitch doing here? And I was like, so I went over and I just introduced myself. And literally we just became besties in 35 seconds. It was almost, well, she can tell the rest, but it was like, we just got along great immediately.
Mm-hmm. I was stomping divots and I was like, what is this rich shit? Like, what are we doing here? We laughed the whole time. We were banter and talking shit. I think we were with Gail. Was Gail there with us?
Yeah, well, Gail was there. She was stomping as well. Off her morning show over stomping grass with us. So it was a fun little day, but the best part about that day was us becoming friends.
Yes, of course. So my same. I also remember very sexy men walking around, and I was like, this is my kind of party. Do you remember that? Like,
yeah, everyone was dressed.
Yeah,
so well,
hot and chic, and I don't even like men, but I was like, oh, these boys are cute. But yeah, Rennae was the highlight of the entire stomping divots, whatever you want to call it, the polo, voo-voo, she classic. But yeah, we were totally fast friends. And then would you invite me on your Amazon show? And I dropped an F-bomb right away. And I was like, oh, she'll probably never invite me back.
Yeah, that's a true story as well. I was like, it's fine. It's streaming. We can say whatever we want.
The best kind of friendships. Did you guys have any opinion about each other before you guys met, or what were your first impressions?
Not really. I mean, I knew of Ashlyn just from you'd have to be living under a rock to not know, especially being a lesbian. I mean, Jesus Christ, she was splashed everywhere every 5 seconds. So
I'll give you a splissy splash.
Yeah, get me in that splish splash. I was like, no, I mean, yeah, it's funny. One of the things that I quickly realized about Ashlyn is that, and she's going to play this off like, no, but one of the things about Ashlyn is that she comes across as this sort of super overly cool, cold, and even when she takes photos, I want to say she needs to smile more.
Intimidating.
She does this pout thing when she takes photos, and then as soon as she's off the red carpet or away from the public, Ashlyn is the sweetest human being ever. She is she's such a pussy. She's so soft and so lovey and touchy and feely with all of her friends.
Just hold me.
It's it's such a different perspective of what you actually see in the spotlight and in the public. So and so immediately I was like, oh, you're just
bitch. You're the same. Listen. Sports are acting. Yeah. It's entertainment, right? When you get on the court or you get on the field, it's you have a certain personality. I was intense. Rennae, hello, intense. And we're softies and mushy little lovers off, and we hold hands and we kiss and we squeeze each other, and we can sleep in the same bed and we can laugh like little girlies. And we just we don't take life too seriously. Like, I think sports hardened you in a weird way, and people only see that version. And that's the beauty of these type of conversations. It's like people only know how to identify with us as like who we were as players. Like, it's just not we're totally different off of the field than we are. Like, I was a goalkeeper. I had to be an asshole. I had to make people scared of me. Like, I had a big personality because I had a big position.
Exactly. No, I feel like that's what I've always wanted to do with my platform in sports, is to show the human side of you guys. And so that's why I'm so excited to be talking to both of you. It was really endearing to me, the story about how you two became closer friends, that Rennae invited you to a Friendsgiving or Thanksgiving, and when you were, thinking you were going to be alone on the holiday. So I would love to just hear a little bit more about
girl,
that.
You don't have to tiptoe around that. I was newly divorced. I was the first holiday without my kids, without a family. And, I moved here for sports. So I'm raising 2 children, single parent, without a village, without family. And
New
it
Jersey.
was in fucking New Jersey. Jesus.
I know.
We love Jersey. We love Jersey.
Do we?
Speak for yourself. I'm not sure about that one for me.
I think he gets a bad rap, but carry on.
Yeah, I do. I think it was a unique situation. And Rennae, in the true human form she is, was just like, then you're coming with me. Like, what's your plans? And I was like, I don't have any plans. I can barely wake up out of bed and put one foot in front of the other. And she was like, the best thing for you, horses.
Yeah.
So it was a full circle moment. First off, I had never even touched a damn horse, let alone been on one.
True story.
Seriously. And she invited me, and oh my God, this is such a full circle moment. She's like, I have these friends, the best podcast ever. You're going to love it. They're so unfiltered like us. I've had it podcast. So we started listening to an episode, and we were giggling and laughing, and it just turned into one thing I'll say, because I'm going to keep skipping all over it. It's my time to talk, so I'm going to take it. What I love about the queer community is the community piece. Like, we show up for each other in a way, because I was like, are you sure? I don't know what house I'm going to. And she was like, oh, it's Carson. I'm like, great. I don't like no real context there of like who Carson could be. And I'm like, hello, it's the Carson.
The one and only.
The one and only Carson. And it was just so endearing that he had me staying in his bed with his perfect Hermes sheets and this beautiful like bathtub. Like, they just held me and took care of me. And when I cried, and we sat around the fire, and it was just so lovely and so sweet. And it was so special. And, Rennae and I would go on walks in the morning and just talk. We talked about our signs and about life and about choices and, being a mom and what that means and making hard decisions and how it impacts like the way you move. It was just so sweet. And then we would go and we would feed these horses peppermints and pet them. And it was really therapeutic. It was like a really good time for me to be like, I'm going to be okay. And like, I have really great people in my life, and the chosen people are family to me, and the rest has been history, and we now don't leave each other's side. So thanks, Rennae, for making sure I didn't end up in a gutter that Thanksgiving break. Love you, babe.
That's what we do. We wrap our arms around each other and we make sure everyone's okay.
Yeah. Rennae, I would love to ask you, and Ashlyn, I love how open you are in telling me not to tiptoe around things, but you faced a lot of scrutiny. Like, Rennae, how did you help her and love her through that? Like, people nowadays are so parasocial, or they think they know the stories of what happens in athletes' personal lives, and it couldn't be further from the truth. So, Rennae, how did you just really take her under your wing and be like, no, it's okay. Like, we got you.
I think that's what friends do for one another, is they listen to their stories. And I've always been somebody that says, there's always 2 sides to every story. There's always, you want to get the full picture before you can give her like a definitive answer of what you think they should do. But at the same time, it's more about less about telling them what to do. It's more about allowing people to tell their story to you and be vulnerable. And I think when people are really vulnerable and they open up to you and you see their hurt and you see their pain, that's where you sit back and you don't necessarily try and fix somebody. You're just there for them. I think that's the thing. And with Ashlyn, obviously there was a lot of publicity. It was a lot of scrutiny coming her way. But I also knew her and I knew the stories and I knew a lot of the truths. But it's hard for anyone to sit back and sort of allow someone who's in the public eye to be sort of torn down when you know a lot more than everybody else does. And so, your mama bear protective side comes out in you a lot of times. But unfortunately, sometimes you just got to sit back and just be like, I'm here. I'm here when shit falls apart. I'm here. I can't protect you enough because there's millions of people out there or thousands of people out there have an opinion that will go after you. And those people don't really matter. You know what I mean? The people that matter are the people in your life. And so I think for me, the way that I dealt with that was just, I'm just here for you. Like if you want to tell me stories, if you want to cry, if you want to be frustrated, I'm here. And that's what friends really should do for each other, not try and fix everything.
Well, I will also say this, I think it's really important to have, intentional people in your circle who make you better, who hold you accountable. Because trust me, you don't think I wanted to burn it to the fucking ground? I had receipts. Not only did I have receipts, I had 70 something pages of text messages and receipts that would have set a lot of records straight. And I could have burned a lot of shit to the ground, including a lot of people. And the people, and I've never spoke about this, but it's who's that gonna, I'm not an eye for an eye kind of person. All these people, I carry enough, the expectation and judgment other people have on me when they don't know shit for shit. It's not my responsibility to fucn carry. And I say that, I just do. And to me, burning everyone to the ground, do you know who's going to be the bigger picture? Who's going to be the bigger person? Me, because my kids matter more than setting some narrative. I made a decision that was best for me and my kids.
Yeah.
And where I wanted to go.
And that was one of the things that I think I probably said to Ashlyn more than anything was, let's think about the kids. Because I'd been in a relationship also. I didn't share custody, but I was in a relationship with somebody who had a kid, and it was really hard when we broke up. And so, I was very cognizant of that. And so I was also, one of the things that I talked to Ashlyn quite a bit about was, how are you going to go about this? Because what's best for the kids kind of thing. And it was already hard enough. It's already hard enough for her. It's already hard enough for ex. It's already hard enough for the kids. It's now let's go from here forward. And that's sort of like our friendship. It sort of started so quickly, but then it really went to a different level really quickly. And so I think that's just from lived experiences.
Ashlyn, I would love to talk about your class of athletes. You really did so much for women's soccer. And something that I love is that your class is in the first ever EA Sports FIFA 16. So how was that for you to give, your sport so much visibility in a video game? And then obviously the equal pay thing we will also talk about. But I would just love for you to talk about your era of athletes.
Yeah, I think what was uniquely special about how we showed up is we were just so unapologetic, and we were so unapologetically ourselves, and we were so authentic. I think for so long we were riding the coattails of the dynasty and tradition that came with U.S. women's national team, and we had to really everything was about the crest and everything was about showing up. And it was you had to be more like this person. You had to be more like that person who are people in the past. And I think what was very interesting that most people don't talk about is we came in and we were just we're just going to fucking be us. And it's either you like it or you don't. I'm not going to sit here and be constantly buttoned and politically correct and not say too much or shrink myself and not, have an opinion about anything. I think what was really unique and special is we had outwardly gay people. We had pink hair. We had a fuck ton of tattoos. We had the girl next door. We had, we just had so much character and so much diversity within the squad to show up, and this space to be exactly who you are and not feel like you had to shrink into something about what was. I think that was the gift. I mean, yeah, I'm not a gamer. I never played the damn thing. I don't have a, whatever you call it, a system or a Nintendo. I'm old. I don't know what they call them now. So for me, like, that wasn't about, I think it's really cool for people who are gamers that can play with women, because I think visibility matters. But for me, like, I think the biggest thing people missed is we gave the team space to just be seen. And I think now, because of laying that foundation, when you look at it, Emma Hayes, she is about it. She's like, I'm here to let Trinity Rodman be Trinity Rodman. Like, I'm here to let people express exactly who they want to be and love them in that space, instead of being like, Trent, you got to be more like Abby Wambach, or you got to be more like so-and-so. It's just me. Like, that was always what we heard. We had to earn that right. And it got old, and it's like, I don't want to be Hope Solo. I want to be Ashlyn Harris. And that, during the time before pre-2016, like, you couldn't be a full human in that space. You had to be a machine, and it was about the badge. And it was like, I don't know. It had really evolved and changed when that 2019 hit, because we were like, if we don't want to go to the White House, if we don't want to support Trump, if we want to kneel, if we want to be about advocacy and advocate on the things we believe in, we were given this space and platform to do so and be supported.
No, that's so important. I know so many of my friends loved your guys' teams for the expression of their sexuality, their gender identity, and how important to you was to be like the face, one of the faces of that for young queer people. I mean, back then and even now, how was that for you?
Soccer was always a means to an end for me. Like, I needed to get out of my circumstance. I needed a better life for myself. I was bullish and naive, thinking I was going to get paid like a man. So I was going to make, like, oh my God, my family's life so much better and all of these things. But for me, like, a lot of people live, eat, breathe, sleep, talk about it every day. For me, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't fulfilling enough to just be Ashlyn Harris, goalkeeper, U.S. women's national soccer team. Like, I wanted to, if I worked that fucking hard to have a platform where people actually listen to the things I said, I wanted to be insightful and intelligent enough to say the right thing. Also, I wanted to talk about my journey. I wanted to talk about my life. I wanted to talk about my pain. I want to talk about the mistakes I've made. Like, yeah, I live my life in the public eye, which means good and bad is going to come from that. I am also a human. I also evolve. I also make mistakes. I also don't have all the answers. But I thought if I could bring everyone along with me and be real enough to either help them with mental health, help them with coming out, help them to find a community and safety, advocate for women in sports to feel like they belong, to feel like they're worthy. That was my why. That is why I fought so hard, because I knew it was creating real impact and change.
On the business side of things, we want, obviously the representation's amazing, but you want to be paid to be yourself. And Rennae, I would love to ask you, because tennis is such an early adapter of equal pay. It was, the first major sport to come up with the system for equal pay. So what blueprint do you think tennis set for other sports to have equal and equitable pay and resources?
I think sticking together is the key. And I think that one of the things that the women's soccer team finally did was that they all independently, even though some of them were massive superstars, all realized that together they're a collective group is a lot stronger than individuals. And so I think that's what happened, when the WTA was formed back in 1973, you had the Billie Jean Kings. Of course, you need a leader. You need someone who's willing to sort of put it all on the line. And so I think that what tennis did was, have a leader like Billie Jean King, who's been leading so many different I mean, she was a big catalyst for the soccer team doing what they did. And, you know, I remember Julie Foudy and I were friends back in the day because we're about the same age. And, you know, she was telling me a lot about what Billie Jean was helping and create for them. And then that got passed down to, you know, Ashlyn and Megan and all the other team members of the US national team. And so if you're not together, you're separated, and separation is never going to be a powerful hammer to make things change. And so I think, you know, we had bold leaders back then with Billie Jean and some amazing women that signed a $1 contract to get it going, to separate themselves from the men and say, we need to be paid in a different way. And then you had great leaders like, you know, eventually someone like Venus Williams, who on her, you know, the day before her Wimbledon final, singles final, was in negotiating equal prize money at Wimbledon. Like, that's insane. You know, so there's so many stories like that. So you need leaders, but you also need everyone to come behind them and say, we're going to stick together. Because when it's separated, when you fracture anything, it's never strong, because the fracture can be really created and made wider really quickly. And so I think the catalyst of what women's tennis showed the world was not only can women get paid equally to the men, especially if they're just as entertaining as the men, then if you stick together as a group, you can really make some changes. And I think that's what we're seeing over the look at the WNBA over the last 2 months. I mean, they just hung in there and refused to back down. When I would say 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, they probably would have crumbled. There would have been fractures in there enough for people to be like, but I need that $60,000, you know? No, we're fighting for you to get $600,000. Yeah, but I need that $60,000. If I don't play this year, what am I going to do? So you have to have leaders, which they do have in the WNBA, who really stood there steadfast and said, no, we're not going anywhere. And one of the reasons is because you had Breanna Stewart and you had Nafisa Collier starting a new league on their own and making money. And so they're like, we don't need you to make money anymore. We're going to do it on our own. So that's what Billie Jean King did. That's what the soccer girls did together. And that's now what we're seeing in women's basketball and every other women's sport, is that they're demanding that equal prize money and equal just visibility is it's a win for these people too. Let's not forget that. They're making money off these women. So why not get some of that bag themselves?
Exactly. And then when you do change the game so much, Ashlyn, how do you then figure out it's time to step away? You've had such a long career, and I actually would love to share this story with you. I was at the Players Ball when you announced your retirement. We literally spoke on the red carpet, and you're like, oh yeah, we have a lot to celebrate tonight. And you're kind of like, no one knew. You were like, oh yeah, we're celebrating equal pay. And then like you go in there and just announce your retirement. And that was like groundbreaking for me. I was so new to the industry and I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I witnessing right now? So when and how did you decide it was your time to retire? And what made you want to just announce it and not have some sort of retirement tour?
I just think that I really, when they say like ride it till the wheels fall off, I just was like over it. I think you get to a point, and Rennae knows this, like so much of my time was put towards fighting. And, you know, like it was just constantly fighting for better facilities, fighting for better travel, fighting for better food, fighting for better hotels. Like, it just was shit for so long. It makes you angry, you know? Like I was carrying so much anger because I knew the inner workings of the league at that time was just built on bullshit. And some clubs were great, but the infrastructure of what I was dealing with inside those clubs and what I was being paid, like I didn't have to be there. And I think you get to a point where you fight. It took the love away from me. Like I was tired of holding owners accountable. I was tired of holding GMs accountable. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, you have too much of a voice. And oh, this is like, you know, it just was fucking exhausting. Mm-hmm. I don't know a nicer way to land the plane. Like a lot of women, the hell that they've had to go through to get to scrape for these new CBAs, mm-hmm. to make it equitable and to even make it reasonable of what to pay in terms of what you have to sacrifice. Like, I was just fucking over it. Like, I was tired. I didn't want a celebration game. I wanted a life back.
Yeah.
And I say that genuinely. I didn't realize what that meant until I had children.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had children and I had to choose to be away from them over this shit, I was like, the space in between now is too big. Like, I don't have, like, now it's time for this younger generation to step up. I have exhausted myself and I am no longer I've sacrificed plenty to do this sport, to continue to elevate and level up and level. I'm fucking done. And I want to be, I've set an example. I've done right by the people around me. I've fought like hell. I was always the bad guy. I was always the person going in being like, this isn't good enough. They deserve better than this. Like, this is, and it just gets exhausting. Like, the fight got to be too much. And then it was taken away from my joy in my home life. And like, I wanted to be with my kids and I wanted to be happy and I wanted to be paid fairly. And I wanted to enjoy showing up to my job. Like, that fight really took away the joy in my life. And I had too much riding on that moment because I had kids. And at the time I had two. And it just didn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. Everyone loves to talk about the legacy, but no one really talks about the work and exhaustion that goes into leaving a legacy.
Yeah, and when you're a captain of every team and,
mm-hmm.
You're trying to be the face of all of these things, like, you also have to be the bad guy. And I got tired of being the bad guy. It's like, I have to drive the standard and I have to make sure everyone's getting this or we're getting gear, or like, it got old.
As Taylor Swift said in her documentary, everyone's jealous of what you got, but no one's willing to put in the work to get there. No one sees what you have to do to get there.
Exactly.
And the truth is, like, I had to work 5 fucking jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't paid a lot to play.
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard you lost money to play with all the knee surgeries and everything. Like, you're losing money.
I think the top amount of money I got paid, I think when I left Gotham, I think I was at about $125,000. Living in New York and Montclair, New Jersey, like, with 2 kids.
Yeah.
You know how much they gave me a year for being a parent, a stipend? $5,000 a year. That doesn't cover my nanny in a month. That doesn't cover school. Nothing. They tried to make it impossible for you. They didn't support you. They didn't help you. And I would go in, I'd print out the CBA, the old CBA of the WNBA. They were getting 60.
Wow.
And I'm like, where the fuck did 5,000? And then they would fight me that 5 was only for the household, not per kid.
Wow.
And I'm just, let's expose the real truth behind all of it. That's what people don't see. The fighting it didn't make sense anymore.
All right. I would love to transition a little bit into your career, Rennae, because it can't be stated enough how much of an icon you are and were. So first of all, when it comes to being as great as you were as a player, I feel like you were the one that every opponent has underlined in red on their schedules. So how is, the pressure of being the best and staying the best when you were playing? Like, how did you deal with that? And what lessons did you take after your playing career?
Well, it's funny, like hearing Ashlyn sort of talk about how hard it was, in the end, you're sick of fighting. I think one of the things, and I've spoken about this, probably my most successful year where I won 2 major titles. I won the WTA finals, won like 6 or 7 other tournaments in the year, which is a phenomenal year in any year. I was probably my most miserable. So, because you just, to be the best, second is just the worst. You know what I mean? It's going to I would say that Ashlyn knows what that feels like as part of the U.S. national soccer team for women. They're always seen as the best. They should all win everything. So when you're not winning everything, it's kind of like all you can think about is all the things that you didn't do or accomplish or lose that year. And so, you go into the day knowing that sort of you're the top ranked team for us. We're supposed to win every tournament. And if you didn't, you were so miserable about it. But then if you won, you were still like, okay, what's next? You can never really enjoy the winning process. And I think any great athlete, any great team will say that there's no doubt that you don't enjoy the wins enough. And I've had conversations with great athletes about that. And, my old friend Steffi Graf said, I wish the only thing I regret about my career is not enjoying the wins more. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't, because as soon as you start thinking about the wins and like you start thinking you're complacent, right? So you're like satisfied with doing whatever you've done instead of like wanting more and more. So this like conundrum of like being a great, if you're number one in anything, all you're thinking about is staying there and nothing else is good enough. And so it's like a miserable thing. I mean, I'm sure Ashlyn knows exactly how that feels. It's like you never feel satisfied. So it's kind of like, I think Ash is talking about, interesting, like she was over the fight. She was kind of fighting for certain things. But I think also the fight is like always having to be the best. It's really hard, And I was never really that happy in those years. And that's what's sort of weird, because I should have been so happy, but I wasn't, because I was just thinking about, God, if I lose now, everyone's going to think I suck.
Yeah. Ashlyn, what do you think about that? That's very interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I think, the air is thin at the top. That's why they call it the 1%. I think, it's one thing getting there. It's another thing staying there. I think longevity in a career that's very intense and nonstop, like it's make or break, you sink or swim. Not everyone can do it. Some people get eaten up and spit out, and some people become a machine and can stay at that level.
Ash, would you say, like during the World Cups in particular, which is where most of the scrutiny was on you guys, not necessarily the Olympics was one thing, but the World Cup, would you guys say that that's probably the sort of most intense and miserable you all were at the same time? Because you'd win a game, but you were like, God, we got to win the next one. Was that kind of a feeling that you guys had in the locker room, or was it always just fun? So, should I have picked a team sport?
Yeah, I think it's a different atmosphere, because like you had 35, we were traveling circus, like I think I can put it as a before and after, right? So before we became a very, very popular team, we could go to dinners. Like we would be in Portugal and we'd go out to dinners with a group of us, and we would have wine and we'd go out, we would shop, we would have a good time. And then I think as the team progressed and became more mainstream, we couldn't do those things anymore. I even remember Megan and I in 2019, we went, we were going out to dinner and we got like chased. And I was like, just run back. Then we had to rent out an entire hotel. We had to frost every entrance out. Like it just became too big. And that means it became very small. But no, like we had a home, like we hung out. It was fun. And when like,
see, I should have picked a team sport.
When it sucked, we were like, we fucking rallied around our teammates and we loved each other, and we like went out and we had a good time, and we were, having fun.
My friends on tour are my opponents. So it's like, even though they were my friends, I had to play them at some point. And it was just like, so having fun was, we would have fun on tour. But, if you lost to them, you're like, I need 48 hours of space away.
Yeah, but also like you guys play a lot more than we do. Like we can
do.
only play once a week. It's too high impact. We're covering too much ground.
They're weak. They're weak.
Their field, their court is this big. Like
it's true, but we're out there 3 hours sometimes. Sometimes
you are
5 if you're a dude. So I don't want to hear this. Don't tell me tennis players are soft.
Yeah. So we just have totally different experiences. Like the best part of my journey was my teammates. Yeah. Like it was fun.
And then meanwhile, Rennae is the OG heated rivalry, I would like to point out.
Yeah, she is. Why don't you talk about that, you little dirty dog?
Yeah, I was a heated rivalry long before that show came about. I mean, I was sneaking into hotel rooms.
That show was made
Ashlyn, you
based
can't
on...
talk either, girlfriend, but
you know what? Didn't end well for me, honey.
No, it didn't. Well, we didn't end up together anyway. But yeah, I mean, I was playing with my doubles partner. I was literally dominating the world in doubles for a number of years with my girlfriend, and she was my best friend. So, as hard as it was, and we were literally, we spent so much money, excess money, on getting 2 hotel rooms just so people would think we were staying in separate rooms. One time at the US Open, we got a room all the way down. There was this one particular hotel called the Parker Meridian here in New York, and we stayed there it was a tournament hotel. And we got the 2 rooms at the very end of the hotel that had this separate door that would close, so we could close one door and leave the 2 doors open to the rooms. And I'm like, we had one room for luggage. Like, what the fuck? Like, what were we thinking? We paid probably like an extra $6,000 just to stay at this hotel, probably more, just to have an extra room so the housekeeper wouldn't know we were. It was just nuts. So yeah, I mean,
crazy.
and then we played against each other in the mixed doubles final at the US Open, and I won that match. And I was sitting in the car driving back to transportation, back to the hotel with, she's sitting next to me in the car, and I'm like next to her, like pumping my fist, like, yeah, we've got another Grand Slam title. And she's sitting over there all sad. And I'm like, my bad. Anyway, what are we doing tomorrow for practice? So it was like, yeah, it wasn't easy going to bed that night, being like super happy, like rolling over and with a big smile on my face. And she's probably pissed on the other side. But hey, it worked out. We won. We still won the doubles a couple of days later. So it was, yeah, but I had heated rivalry 30 years ago. Give me a break.
Yeah, you're such a trendsetter. I love it.
Yeah.
I would love to talk now about your guys' retirements, because your playing careers had so much on the line, whether it is staying the best or building a legacy. But now it just seems like your retirement is nice and light, and like you can just enjoy life. Ashlyn, I would love to know, are you one of those retired players that loves pickleball, or does Rennae not let you play pickleball?
No, I don't. I don't have time. I work. I am a mom. I am diving into, I think what really people don't realize is sport gives you such incredible assets to be an incredible business person. And, a lot of people right now grinding in sports hold characteristics of CEOs and executive traits that they don't even know they have. And the ability to get to walk into the doors they get to walk into is a gift. And I think, what me and Rennae we've done a really great job of following like people who make money moves. Like when I go into a room, I always say this, there's 2 types of people. I follow where the money goes, and I don't follow where the entertainers or the talent is. I want to know who's making the business decisions, because I want to sit at that table. And I think that's a different mindset. And I think most of us as athletes clock it and get it. But I'm enjoying retirement because I love being uncomfortable, and I love to dive into spaces that are unexpected. I'm heavily involved right now in the entertainment space. So I've really been dabbling with producing a lot of unscripted docuseries in women's sports. And now I don't want to speak too soon. I haven't technically signed a contract, but I'm about to start my first scripted series, producing a movie based on sports. And storytelling is what I do. It's what I love. I love being creative. Clearly, I work with Deep Blue Sport and Entertainment.
Shout out Laura. I love her.
Yes. So Laura is a business partner of mine, and she is one of the most incredible, assets to the company. She gets it. She's a smart, brilliant woman, has a long history of sports in her background. So there's no coincidence there. And I really just like to sit at the business development side because I get access to the rooms. And
yeah, I mean, Ash and I talk about this a lot. Like we sort of roll things by each other. What do you think of this idea? What do you think of that? Do you know anyone in this space? Can I help you, connect you with this and that? I think one of the things that athletes need to realize is that, like Ash said, we get into the rooms because of who we are. And the first thing someone says is to me is, oh, did you play at Wimbledon? And then boom, that's a story right there. And then they want to listen to you. And so I think the thing that, we would probably tell any athlete is like utilize the time and space where you are quote unquote important in a room. And then you can go from there. And then you have the respect, right? Ash is doing these things and, I get calls from people to do X and Y, or do you know somebody? And you connect people together. And that's I think once, you say we're retired, trust me, we are so far from retired. We just went into the next phase of whatever it is, me doing a lot of television, and hosting my own show on Amazon a couple of years ago. I mean, that was a stretch for me, but I was like, why not? I think with the thing that athletes do is they're really coachable, except Ashlyn on tennis court.
Oh, I'm not.
But I would never let her play pickleball. I would never forgive her for the rest of my life. And she knows that. But I mean, we're very coachable in certain ways to have success, because an athlete that's been successful at something wants to be only successful at everything else they do, but they're willing to put themselves on the line. And that's the difference with, I think, people that are quote unquote retired from their sport. I say it's the afterlife of the next life.
Afterlife.
I also think one of the greatest assets that we hold is we've failed so much in our career.
Yeah.
It doesn't scare us anymore. I think so many women and men, I don't know, I don't really fuck with them. So I really have no gauge on what they do. Yeah, that part. But I do think women, we hold so many expectations. We hold so much, like we're told to fall in line and we're told to shrink and we're told to do this and we're told to be skinny and we're told to look pretty and blah, blah, blah. It's endless. We can never win. Right? So I think the whole point here is like sport teaches you something invaluable about the way you move in the world and the way you show up, that like Rennae and we don't seek our worth in other people. Like, yeah, the way I show up in the world is a lot of work that I've had to do from failing. I have failed over and over.
Yeah, we lose a lot more than we win.
Lose. Like Rennae says this all the time. There's a stat in tennis. Like you actually lose way more points than you win.
Wow.
So you better be able to get over it very quickly. And I think the whole key here to land the plane is fear for me, and failure is it's like the edge that I want to be on. Yeah. Because on the other side of that is this massive, it's growth. It's learning character. It's learning how to be better and to evolve. And we always say in sport, fail fast. Fail publicly, fail fast, and get back on your feet and learn something, right? Yeah. I mean, tennis, it's the next point. That's exactly all that matters. It's the next point, not what just happened. Even in my position as a goalkeeper, like I am going to make a bad mistake. There's going to be a day when it's wet, when I have lack of judgment, a ball is going to slip through my hands or go under my legs. Now, is that going to cost the team the rest? Like, am I going to have an oh shit moment for the rest of the game? Or do I store it? The best athletes have short-term memory. Do I move forward, fail fast? Man, that fucking sucked. But it's not going to affect my performance the rest of the game. And that is important. And I think that is something that a lot of women don't quite grasp yet because they're scared to death to fail. Yeah. And that failure, but wait, that failure makes them not want to try. Yeah, that's so true. And that's the part that we miss. Like, I'm not going to regret at 80 if I tried something and I failed at it. When I'm on my deathbed, if I say, it was too scary for me, I never even wanted to try it, that is what I'm going to regret. And I think we lose sight of that as women. I was just around a bunch of young women a couple of days ago at a sort of a thing that I do where I go and talk to them and mentor and play tennis with them a little bit. And I cannot tell you how many of the young women who would miss a ball and they look almost embarrassed, so they wouldn't try. And so what Ashlyn just said about they'd rather not try. So it looks like, oh, well, I don't really care.
in actual fact, they care just as much as the young boy on the court. And you've got these young boys like running around like crazy and they're trying to get to everything. And the girls almost like they don't want to try too hard. And I'm like, the thing that I said to them at the end of the day, the most important thing in life is truly giving 100% in whatever you do. Because then you'll know when you wake up, like Ashlyn said, on a deathbed, it's like, you gave everything. And that is a life that was worth living. And that is a life that had purpose, and so that's the thing. It's not about winning and losing. It's actually about giving your best, and giving your best is 100%. And that's it.
Rennae, can you give me your scouting report of what Ashlyn Harris is like as in this afterlife, either in the boardrooms? What's your scouting report on how she is as a businesswoman, as a podcast host?
Yeah, I mean, when she told me she was doing the podcast, it was just like, you're going to be great at it, and not had ever done something like that. And I think has really dived, whatever the word is, really dove into the work and really dove into like getting to know someone and do the actual, like I said, athletes don't want to be average at anything, especially when you've been a successful athlete. You don't want to be average at it. You want to be really good at whatever you do because there's still that fear of failure, or you don't want to be embarrassed to not look good in the eyes of others that are, quote unquote, looking at you and what you're doing. So I think, Ash is always she really dives into everything that she does and gives 100%. And that is something that I talk about, taking people on the tennis court to see what they're like on the tennis court in the first 5 minutes. And Ash was like, just give me the ball, give me another one. And I try and tell her and she'd be like, no, why can I not hit that well? And like, it's the first time you've played. That's why. So you need to chill out. But it's like, you see that immediacy in her wanting to be good at something right away. And that's innately inside of her. And that's it. And so when I see her wanting to go into a business room, I see her on Zoom calls when she's working and trying to, get money for something, for a venture or a business deal. And to everything, it's like, it's 100%. And that's what you want to have in your life. You want to have someone who's going to give 100% all the time and have passion for it. And that I have tattooed on me passion because I think it's super important to have that if you want to be successful. And that's what Ashlyn has in spades.
That's so sweet, Rennae.
So cute.
You got me on a good day. What can I say?
I know.
Ashlyn, how about Rennae? She's a very on the court, very outspoken, and I think nothing's changed after your playing career. So what's your scouting report on Rennae in the boardrooms, on her podcast, on ESPN?
Yeah, I think what you see is what you get. I think we have I think what is so unique about Rennae is she's such an empath and she's such a lover, and she has a very, very high EQ of the room. And I think that separates her from most people. I'm not going to talk about who she was as a tennis player or, everyone knows how incredible she is as a commentator. She's been doing incredible things for a long time. But I think the important piece is how she shows up as a human. So I gauge everything in the first 5 minutes of sharing oxygen with someone to know exactly who they are and exactly how they present themselves. And the warmth in which she brings to a room is infectious. And she is one of my only friends, even to this day, who will schlep on a train, come to New Jersey to have dinner with my children. And they call her Rennae and they love her and they FaceTime. And I think that is who Rennae is. It's not about the wins and the Wimbledons and the bullshit trophies that hers are not even polished and they're fucking dusty in her room. Mine are in a fucking Ziploc bag. I don't even know where my gold medals are. But like, that is who we are. And it's the way in which we care about people on a level that we want the best for them and we want them to win. And we understand what it's like to have loss and we understand what it's like to be misinterpreted or misread or, a kid who decided to bet on herself and leave everything she knew and all of her siblings and her family behind to attack this life. And if you know anything about Rennae, no matter where we go, no matter what state we're in, what fucking country, everyone knows Rennae and Rennae knows everyone. And I do think that's a special gift. I think for far too long, we hide behind this image of what we were when we were players. Like still to this day, when you think of the Tom Bradys and you think of certain people, it's like they have a certain image in the way they show up as an athlete. But I want to know who you are as a human, because at the end of the day, when you peel all that shit back in 15 to 20 years, no one's going to give a shit. I'll tell you what, I retired 3 years ago and I am pretty damn sure no one gives a shit about whatever I've done or whoever I was as a player. But how you treat people and how you serve people and how you show up in the world outside of what you do is what matters the most. And Rennae embodies every aspect of that. And that is why I have such a deep love for her, because people don't care like what you've done. They care about how you've made them feel. And she gets it. And she is very, very, she has a very beautiful soul that is contagious and people want to be around it. And I think that's what makes her so special.
Oh, that was my birthday present.
That
Wraps
was your
up one
birthday.
right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Before we wrap things up, I would just love to know, do either of you two have a question for each other or like anything fun or introspective that you want to ask each other?
I mean, we just spoke on the phone before this.
I love it.
We did. We talked. Ashlyn called me. I just got out of the shower. I was naked. I was like, let me put a shirt on. So you don't want to give her it's my birthday. I don't want to show her my birthday suit. We do know so much about one another and about our what makes each other happy and sad. And I think the two of us really, even though we give this like really strong outwardly personality and persona, I think the thing that we both are very aware of, that we're both really sort of big softies internally, and we hold on to sort of a lot of hurt. And I think, one of the things that, my mom passing away last year has sort of taught me is that like you always want to ask the questions to the people that you love to get the answers you want to have before they're gone from this world. And so, I mean, the transformation over the last like 6 months and 7 months since losing my mom is like also knowing who's there for you. And I think that the key is Ashlyn and I would say that in the end, under all this deep persona of like toughness and things, is that we actually both really need each other in those times of really difficult times. And it's always nice to have the person that you can FaceTime when you're bawling your eyes out. Do you know what I mean? And so I think Ashlyn and I know that about each other now, that we would do that for one another. I know it because I've done it. I've been full tears. We've tears on this couch behind me, and Ashlyn's called me, and I've just cried my eyes out for 5-10 minutes, and vice versa. She's done the same with me, with her relationship breaking down years ago, and I know that she's been through a lot, and she puts up this very tough exterior, but inside it's really hard on people, and that's the one thing I want people to understand in the public is like, I see shit that gets written on Twitter or X or whatever the stupid social medias are, and Instagram. And it's just like, I sort of almost want to be like, why? Why do you feel the need to write something like that? Why do you feel the need to attack me? You don't even know me, right? You don't even know that person like really internally inside who they are. But yet you feel the need to attack someone. I'm just like, you need to check yourself. Like if you feel good about your day after doing that, whether it be sending out 20 messages to random people you don't even know. It's like, It'd be like me writing a comment to Ariana Grande under her thing, like, girl, you, it's like, what?
Like, it feels crazy.
What are you
never.
Doing? It's just weird. It's weird behavior to me. And also those people are incredibly insecure and often incredibly lonely. And so that in and of itself, social media is great for a lot of things, but in the same time, it has been an absolute disaster in so many ways. And I'm lucky enough, and we joke about this all the time, Ash and I, because I grew up in an age where I did not have phones until I was like in my late 20s. Like, thank the gods, because I got out and I played sports and I got to know people. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so bloody social and I have friends all around the world, like Ash was saying, is because I took an interest in people. I didn't get on my phone and sit there for 5, 6, 7 hours a day just scrolling through. And I do that sometimes now. And I'm like, what am I doing? But I'm aware of it because I'm an adult and I just turned in my mid 50s. What the fuck? But I'm like, get the phone out of the kids' hands and get them social and make them be able to talk to one another at a level that someone like Ashlyn and I really sit and talk to each other on a level that's really deep. And there is no better friendship than walking the streets for me of New York. I have a really good friend, Joe Jarvis from Australia, who lives here. I love walking the streets of New York City for an hour and a half to 2 hours and just talking about life. That's life. That's what true love and friendship and being human is about. It's not being on your phones. And stop writing people on Instagram and your social medias when you have no idea what's happened in their life. None whatsoever. You don't know what's happened. They could have lost their parents. I had some guy write on my thing something really abusive on my post when my mom passed away. I'm like, what is wrong with you mentally?
Yeah.
But it's like water off a duck's back to me now. And Ashlyn, I know, gets way more hate than I do from like the WASO world, for example. It's like, you don't even know these people. Like, check yourself.
Oh, and if they knew the receipts, honey, they would feel...
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They have no idea what has gone on in people's lives, but they feel the need to express themselves. I'm like, really? Next time you go to write that tweet, just do me a favor. Just don't. Just don't. Just walk away.
Just don't.
Turn your phone
Just don't. Yep.
Well, thank you two so much for bearing your souls to me for the last hour. I mean, like I said, as players, amazing, but as humans, even better. And I knew that before this podcast, and I know that even more now. And I'm glad that the listeners will get to peek into your minds a little bit more. So thank you so much for joining me.
Don't go too deep in there because it's dark sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would love, also for the listeners, you got to listen to both of their podcasts on the iHeart Women's Sports Network. You two are both amazing, phenomenal hosts as well. So thank you again for coming on and spending your morning with me and your birthday with me. That's crazy. And I feel
You're lucky.
Yeah, I am. Very lucky. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Go Aries.
Happy birthday, Rennae.
Thanks
for
kids.
having
Birthday.
us. Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. The Matchup with Aliyah is an iHeart Women's Sports production, produced by Brittany Brown and Rodney Brown of Barbara Jean Productions. Supervising producer is Kaylin West at Realm. Associate producer is Amaya Brathwaite. Talent booking by Melissa Chuzid. Hosted by me, Aliyah Funschelle. Our executive producers are Molly Barton, Jerry Carita, Grace Fuse, and Jesse Katz. Our theme song is composed by Gramoscope Music. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.